Talking with Words.
Welcome back to Talking with Words. You're here with Rob,
Ryan.
and we are joined by Hugo. And pronounce your last name for me.
Andre.
So it is Hugo Andre, uh,
Mhm.
writer, director, and actor in Happy as Larry, which we saw at Dallas Film Festival. Thank you so much for giving us some time this evening for you.
Yeah.
And are you in France right now?
I'm in England at the
England.
moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
You won the audience award in Dallas. It well deserved. We loved it. You were able to capture, this movie's about this person who is going out to commit suicide and heavy stuff, but you're able to laugh through it, and some of the characters you bring in there make it a lot lighter than it would be otherwise. And I mean, you nailed making a suicide movie. Uh,
Thanks.
I mean, it could have been really, really dark, and you were able to give it some, some sweetness and levity, which it all worked out perfectly. We really enjoyed it.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Uh, I just wanted to ask some technical questions. We talked to you for a minute in Dallas. Uh,
hmm
Sound, because you shot it all in Scotland. I have the sky,
hmm
and it was everything outdoor. I don't remember any indoor shots.
Yeah, I mean the entire film was shot outdoors. I mean, if you really want to count, the first 60 seconds of the film was technically shot in a car, but it kind of wasn't. You know, we had the doors open and the whole crew was stood outside anyway, so I'd still class that as an exterior shoot, you
Yeah,
know. So yeah, I mean the whole film was shot outdoors, which we knew was going to be a challenge. But honestly, our sound operator, Joe Brooks, absolutely nailed it. I don't know how he did it, but somehow it sounds good. Also, thanks to obviously our sound designers as well, Joe and David, and a different Joe, actually. Um, yeah, so I mean, yeah, somehow it sounds all right, you know, which is surprising because we had loads of wind some days, we had rain, we had people talking in the distance, and we kind of didn't want the interference of other people in this film. Obviously, like it's not supposed to be this dystopian world where nobody else exists, but I just thought it would take away from their kind of, you know, their solitude and their sort of little bubble if we had other people sort of like interfering in the background. So I always tried to avoid that and hearing that as well.
yeah. Did you guys? I mean, I've obviously never been to Scotland, but did you have to make anything to block wind? And I mean, you were fighting elements the entire time out there. It looked it looked like it was very, very windy.
It was very, very windy, and there wasn't much we could do about that. You know, it was just a case of adapting to it, you know. Like if it was windy, cool, let's embrace the wind, you know, let's make it part of the scene. We did have this flag, but that was more for light. So it was like this, I mean, my gaffer's gonna kill me if I get this wrong. What was it, like 1.2 or 1.5 by 1.5 meters or something like that? So we had a flag, and that was mostly like for light, you know, to either reflect light um or to create sort of like this neg fill. But we also kind of used it a little bit for wind as well.
Yeah.
So if it was like very windy, we might, you know, just put it, you know, sort of to the side of like the mic, you know, the boom or whatever, and that it kind of helped a little bit.
Just makeshift blockade, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it didn't really make much difference, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, did you guys find yourselves when you're shooting just stopping and saying, "Oh man, this shot right here, let's get this hill or this view, this vista," because there was so much out there.
That happened a few times. That happened a few times. And they're actually some of the funniest moments that we've had on set, or like just the most interesting, because we were actually on our way to a location and we had some extra time, which is usually not the case, but we gave ourselves like a healthy amount of time this day to shoot this scene. And on the way to the location, we were stuck behind a herd of cows. And when I say stuck, I mean like, you know, it's one road that's, I don't know, 20 miles long or something. And it was just 100, 200 cows walking along this road, and there's nothing we could do about it. We were stuck behind these cows for the entire road. So our journey time like tripled. And I just remember saying, I was like, well, let's use this, right? So we had the cameras and stuff. The actors were not in costume, but we had a camper van. And I was like, while we're moving, let's get the camera set up. Let's get the actors in costume. And I want you to go out onto the road and I want to film you amongst these cows. So I don't know if you remember, but there's this short, sort of like 5, 10 second moment in this montage where they're walking with a bunch of cows, basically during this like transitioning period. And that was just, it just happened like that. And another time was, do you remember the scene where they're in the fog and they're having that conversation and they're just surrounded by mist, fog all around them? Well, the frames before that were of the mist rolling over the cliff's edge. And that was just a moment on a different day, actually, I'm pretty sure, where I saw the mist coming over the edge and I grabbed my DP and I was like, shoot that right now. And he's like, we don't have time. And I was like, no, shoot that because we can use it as a transition.
Right.
And we did, we ended up using it as a transition, which worked perfectly to go into that fog scene. So, but that wasn't even the same day, but you just
Yeah.
never know when you're going to find these moments.
And you shot this really, it was what, 21 days?
Yeah, it was, yeah, 21 days.
Yeah, that's impressive. And I mean, how far apart were you shooting when you were having to travel those days? Because you have beach sequences, you have sequences where you're up in the hills.
Yeah, so we tried to schedule it as well as we could. Nothing was ever really much further than an hour away from our base, because we planted ourselves kind of like on the Isle of Skye. And when you're in the Isle of Skye, and if you're like sort of somewhere in the middle, you can kind of go to anywhere on the island, and it's about an hour away. Having said that, I scheduled it, or we scheduled it in a way where we would kind of try and fit as much of the bottom half of the island as possible in the first couple of weeks, and then the next couple of weeks would be at the top side of the island, just so that we weren't wasting too much time going back and then forth. If we had multiple locations in one day. But the funny thing is, it was 21 shoot days, but I think the average amount of hours we were shooting per day was only around 5 or 6 hours. Not because we weren't busy for the whole days. We were very busy, but most of the time was spent hiking or like, setting up shot or whatever it was, like, getting to the place because we would have to drive. But then once we drove there, we would have to hike and then we'd have to go back and then try and get some lunch. You know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of time wasted doing all of this sort of stuff. So I think on average, we were probably shooting for 6 hours a day. And another reason for that is because we were avoiding shooting in the middle of the day. We did like, 2, 3 hours in the morning when the light was nice, and then we do sort of 2, 3 hours sort of early evening when the light was nice as well. Because, in the middle of the day the light is just quite flat. Um, so somehow we shot it in 21 days and averaged about 6 hour shooting days. I don't know how we did that, but there we go.
Yeah, that's impressive. And I was about to ask about it was mostly day. I mean, you have night shots, obviously, but
Mhm.
during the day, there was not a lot of artificial light that I could tell. Were you guys just using natural light for almost everything?
There was none, I don't think.
Okay, yeah,
For the day stuff, I don't remember there being any artificial light. We were just using neg fill and we were using reflection, basically. Yeah, I don't think there was anything. We used a little bit of artificial light for the night stuff. I mean, we kind of had to.
yeah,
Actually, it was a lot harder to shoot the night stuff just because when you're that high up, near the Arctic Circle, and we were shooting around May, June time, we actually only had about 4 or 5 hours of night. So it was really hard to shoot the night stuff because it would only really be dark from around 11, 11:30 until maybe 4 a.m., 3:30, 4 a.m. So the night stuff was really compact.
yeah. You've done, this is your fourth film?
This is my second feature, but my fifth film, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
no, sorry, it is my fifth, yeah, including shorts.
Okay. I mean, how did this feel compared to some of the other stuff doing it like this, doing all the outdoor and the natural light and stuff like that?
Um, It was hard, but I think we mentally prepared ourselves enough that it didn't really come as a shock. Like it could have been a lot worse, to be honest. So I don't think it was that difficult just because we spent months, coming to terms with the fact that we were just going to be outdoors for this entire thing. So yeah, it wasn't that bad, to be honest. And I love being outdoors anyway. Maybe other people had a harder time than I did. I prefer to be outdoors. If anything, I go insane being in a studio all day. So yeah, being outdoors was great, except for the midges, which I've spoken about a few times. They're these little insects that bite you and they swarm you. So apart from them, it was pretty great.
Apart from getting eaten alive.
Yeah, that was not great. That was not fun.
We got to talk to Kevin and Calvin a minute there in Dallas. Uh, Super nice guys. They seemed like they survived the wilderness with you for the most part. Were they all game for everything you had them doing?
Yeah. Yes and no. Like at the start, I think everyone was sort of like a bit hesitant maybe. Just because nobody really knew what to expect and you have to kind of acclimatize to it and you have to get fit for it, physically fit. And then that was something that we all, we by the end of the shoot, we were all super fit and we could carry our bags and like no problem, up and down, up and down. But the first week was tough, I think, for everybody physically. And Kevin is afraid of heights, who played Dale, which is ironic because obviously he's supposed to be the mountain man, right, in the film, but he's actually afraid of heights, and he didn't even tell me that when I auditioned him, and he read the script obviously, but he didn't tell me that he was afraid of heights. So we went on our first hike to one of the locations, the mountain locations, and he was struggling a little bit just because of obviously his fear of heights, and I had no idea, and I was like, oh my God, this is like, you know, this is not going to work. Like we need to figure out another way of doing this. But then he sort of came to terms with it and was like, there's no other way, I've got to get this done. And I think by the end of it, he was a lot more confident. But yeah, bless him. It was not easy for some of those shooting locations.
Yeah, he was on the edge of cliff faces on some of those, wasn't
Yeah,
he? So yeah,
exactly, exactly. So yeah, not easy for someone in his shoes, but yeah.
Did Kevin and Calvin know each other before filming?
Mm, Not at all, no. They actually hadn't even met before filming. So I think we had one, maybe two Zoom calls before shooting, honestly, like maybe 10 days before we went out there. And that was it. So they didn't know each other at all. I'd met Calvin in person. I hadn't even met Kevin on person. The first time I met Kevin in person was basically on the shoot
Oh
when he
wow.
arrived.
They
Yeah,
had they had really good on-screen presence together. It just seemed like they had been working together forever, just like how
I know.
easy the back and forth was. It's pretty awesome to watch.
I was honestly very, very lucky, to be honest with you, because firstly, they're amazing actors. They're super talented. They're super precise. They managed to remember like 10 pages of dialogue without like one hiccup. I don't know how they do that as someone who, has acted as well. But on top of that, they're great people and they had great chemistry together. So, hey, I was just like super lucky. I was happy to be there. I didn't really even have to direct that much. I was like, okay, let's roll. And then I just let them do their thing, It was pretty easy for me, actually.
That's awesome.
and let's talk about Dean and Yasmin then for a minute in this movie. Your character does a song that
Mhm.
you talked about a little bit at the Dallas premiere. There was a much longer version. Uh, that was fantastic. Uh, it came out of nowhere, which made it so much better. With these two characters coming across this couple that is so clearly in love with each other, um, and then you delivering that song, staring into Larry's eyes. Uh, yeah, I heard a lot of laughs in that theater. That was well done. Where did this
It
come from?
it was super random, man. Like it was so random. I originally wrote it that the character, me, was gonna sing "Dancing Queen" by ABBA. and that was the original idea, but we couldn't get the license for the song. And I was like, crap, what am I going to do, you know? And basically, long story short, although I try not to tell too many people, I used to write lyrics back in the day, you know, like songs, raps, and things like that. So I was umming and ahhing about writing, you know, like an original piece, but I didn't know whether I wanted it to be like a sing song or whether I wanted it to be a rap, you know. And then I just thought, no, a rap is just too weird. I know this moment's weird already, but like a rap would just be like insane. And I think it would be, I don't know, it would make more sense if it was a love song, right? But in like Dean's own way. So it's a love song, but it's narcissistic and somehow it's about him and you know, just it's just really fucking random. Um, but I wrote it, I think, the night before or the 2 nights before I wrote it. And I wrote it in about 30 minutes. And I went downstairs and I went and spoke to my friend and I was like, hey, I've written these lyrics and can I perform them to you? And it was just me and him in the kitchen, and I performed them to him, and he just like nodded the entire time like this. And I didn't know this at the time, but he told me later that he secretly recorded me. So the first ever performance is on his phone, and I still haven't seen it. So I don't know if he's lying or not. But yeah, I basically performed it to him in the kitchen, and then I got his approval and was like, okay, cool. I guess I'm doing that then, you know?
It's going to be on
Um,
DVD extras, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's yeah, maybe. I mean, the extended version certainly will be. The extended version, you know, we're even talking about releasing the extended version as like a music video type of
Oh
promo
yeah,
thing.
that
I
would be.
really don't know how comfortable I feel with that, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. So
Just put it out there and never watch it yourself.
I think so. That like with all of my old music, I guess. But yeah, definitely.
Let's see. The this movie starts out on the port with Larry and the sequence where he's trying to give his car away, his keys away with this old lady. I mean, that set the tone for the entire movie, I think, with just those two. Uh, I was already laughing immediately. I knew this is what I wanted. I was in for a treat. I always uh, think about the characters after the film, like what happened to them, and in this one, you put a bow on it. We know what happens to him, but I'm sitting there wondering later, like, what's Larry driving now? Like, does he have a car anymore, or is he a bike guy now? Uh, I always wonder stuff like that. So that was fun to to include in the very beginning there. Uh, and then the other one I kept thinking about was the vegan pancakes that were not vegan pancakes. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, it's all kind of ridiculous to be honest, but I just, you know, the I guess what I like about the first scene where he's trying to give his car keys away and no one will take them is that, you know, even when he's trying to do some good, like just nothing goes right for this guy. And that was kind of the, you know, that's what I wanted the audience to realize is that like no matter what this guy does, it just doesn't go right. And you can just see his frustration, you know, just like simmer and then boil because it's like, well, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, why am I even in the situation where I'm like forcing people to take my car keys, you know? Like, but it's just, yeah, I found that interaction really interesting. And I have no idea what he would be driving now. I think he would be a bit more, I think he'd be bolder in his choices now, you know, because he was a very like, you know, plain Jane is what we would like to say in England. You know, I don't know if you guys say that, but yeah, he was quite plain, quite basic, quite modest. But I reckon he's whipping like a you know like a modified Jeep or something. I'm just saying that because I have a Jeep. I don't know.
yes,
That's
his his we'll call it failures there at the beginning. It's I mean he's just getting hit over and over with his tent and everything else. When we introduce Dale, uh, that character he reminds me of a lot of somebody I know.
oh,
That's a mountain man, except Dale's way kinder. Uh, his it's almost childlike in some of his approaches to friendship with Larry. Uh, how did this character develop, or did you write them together when you were coming up with this?
yeah, I think they developed around the same time. Yeah, I mean he has like a childlike innocence, and I think honestly, the world would probably be a better place if more people were like Dale and they approached friendship in that way, because there's such a facade, with dating or friends or whatever, where you have to like kind of play it cool, or you can't be too out there, but I love that Dale isn't afraid to put himself out there, and he is just himself through and through. Maybe it's not 100% realistic. I have met one or two people in my life that are kind of like him, so whatever. But at the end of the day, the it's just the contrast between them, the polarity that makes it interesting. And having two people that are so different become friends, I think just shows the world that, anything is possible, and, we should maybe take a page from Dale's book. Um, but yeah, I think I wrote them roughly at the same time, and actually it all stemmed from a dream that I had where these two guys met in the dead of night, and that was kind of where this all came from. That was the inspiration. So yeah.
I liked when you were doing the panel at in Dallas. Somebody asked about the inspiration, and you said that it was a true story inspired by your life, and no one quite got the joke.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I don't think I answered one question seriously during that Q&A. I don't know what was going on with me, but I was just like, you know what? The thing is with Q&As is they can be a bit boring sometimes to watch. So I just thought I'm gonna just be a bit crazy and just make this lighthearted and fun to keep it engaging and let the other guys answer seriously. Um, but yeah, some of the things I said might have been true, but that wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I think we laughed, and no one else quite understood. They were like, "Oh, is he okay? Do we need to call someone?"
I mean, like, okay, maybe I wasn't 100%, I wasn't lying 100%, like sort of inspired. No, not really. But like, I'd say I can relate to Larry, like
Sure.
as a writer, that feeling of isolation and, feeling like maybe, I'm spending all this time writing as opposed to going and living life. And, I can definitely relate to Larry a lot. But in terms of the whole thing, yeah, no, not really.
Yeah, good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I would say so.
The there's a scene. What did they call it when they're throwing the trunk?
Caber toss.
Say it again.
Caber toss. So tossing the caber,
Caber
caber
toss.
toss.
Uh,
So,
did you make any of the crew do that?
uh, well, actually, what was funny about that was that we had to find some sort of dead trees because we didn't want to chop down, like live trees. So we had to find some dead trees in this forest. And we only really had this that saw that you see, like that little hand saw,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which doesn't actually work. Like it really doesn't work. It looks cool, but it doesn't work. We bought it off Amazon, and the only other thing we had was this rusty old hand saw that we found in a shed of an Airbnb we were renting. So we had those two things to literally chop through trees, and basically each crew member took their turn to try and saw through these tree trunks because it was just taking so much time, and these saws were just really not working. So I think 10 or 11 of us contributed to what you see there in terms of the actual chopped logs. Yeah, it was a lot of hard work.
Yeah, that was a fun scene. I think that was the first thing we saw when was that the clip, the caber tossing clip. Uh
It
I think so.
probably was, yeah.
yeah, that was a good one. And the was the did you guys cut the tree to break when Dale kicked it, or was that just a happy?
So, so that was funny actually. We were doing some tests. So we were doing some tests where one of the crew members was throwing it, right? And it was on one of these tests that it actually broke for real because it hit like a root, like a thick root in the ground, and it just snapped in half. And I was like, crap, like we've already shot on this log. We can't get another one because we've already shot on it. So then we had to skip a couple of steps, and we basically made it look like it was together again. And we basically had to like just perfectly place it, so that it looked like it was together, so that when he picked it up, it seemed like it broke. And we added in a sound effect as well of it like cracking as it it planted into the ground. But yeah, none of that was planned. But again, just going with it, and just making it part of the scene.
Yeah, just worked out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm talking. You go ahead if I'm stepping over you here.
So I was kind of scrolling through the IMDb names before we got on here. It seems like you had a relatively small crew um, for the majority of the film. I mean, I'm sure there was some of the extras like the skateboard kids and some of the other stuff weren't listed in there, but I think I only counted like 15 or 16 people for the whole crew. Is that off a little bit? Because that seems really small for this big of a film.
It was actually smaller than that. I think there were 9 of us.
Oh wow.
I think there were 7 crew members and 2 lead actors. I think 7 or 8. Yeah, yeah. It was like what I call a skeleton crew,
Yeah.
but that was done on purpose. My previous feature had a lot more people working on it. The credits list for that was probably 3, 4 times the size, if
Right.
not even more. But for this feature, the idea was that we wanted it to have a big impact and, seem larger than it is and, add production value where we could. But at the end of the day, we didn't need extra hands. If anything, they would kind of get in the way, especially when you're hiking every day and, you're trying to be a bit low key in some of these locations and you don't want to draw too much attention to yourselves when you're, on the top of a mountain or at a waterfall or whatever the hell, so that was like a whole thing. That was a whole thing, just trying to bring the numbers down as much as we possibly could. And the same with equipment. That's why we didn't have any artificial light for 90% of the film, if not more, because we just, you can't carry these things up mountains. So we had like a really small um, camera package, really small crew, and yeah, we were just wearing a lot of hats basically. I think each person was filling the shoes of probably 2 or 3 people.
Okay.
The Wank Diary. I want to make sure I bring that up because we talked about that. We talked about it afterwards if we needed to
Yeah.
go on Amazon and get one. That
Yeah,
just
you guys should. Out of context, this is a really weird conversation as well. If anyone listens,
that'll be the clip I use for
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
movie.
the wank
Tell us
diary.
about your Wank Diary. Yeah.
That definitely was mine. That was a true story. No, I don't know what there is to say about the Wank Diary other than I was very surprised to find it on Amazon, I guess. And I just thought it was hilarious. As soon as I saw it on Amazon, I was like, why does this exist? And why is there a wank tally on every single page? I just thought that was absurd. And then I thought, well, if I if I somehow combine that with Dale's love of Betty, his cow that died, was killed on the farm. I just thought it was just some weird, this weird, yeah, I don't know. That was a bit of that was something where I didn't know if that was going to land, and I was like, that people could just think this is a bit too weird. But in my mind, I was like, why not? I mean, Dale is that sort of person that would have this thing and just not think too much about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you keep it?
Do I have this wank diary? I don't know. I need to look for it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that thing is.
It'd be a good piece of
I'm lying. It's under my bed.
okay, see that's what I expected.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now it's filled out.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
All those torn sheets. Um, let's see. What else do you have? Sorry.
I don't know that I had anything else on Happy as Larry. I mean, you got anything else for that particular
Yeah,
film?
for this one, can people see it outside of film festivals right now?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
No, I mean, Dallas International Film Festival was the very first festival that we entered into, and the first one where I got selected. So we're really just at the start of the whole festival run, to be honest with you. So it'll probably be in festivals for another year or so, maybe a bit less, before it actually has an official release.
Just Just want to make a note about that to put in there for people. Uh, yeah, go ahead.
So I was just curious what I know you said you were in some production negotiations or distribution negotiations for it. Um, and you've still got a while left on the festival circuit with it. But what do you have coming up next after this? Like, what are you working on for your next short or your next feature?
Firstly, I wouldn't say that I'm in negotiations with distribution. It's more just that I've had conversations. We've had a couple of people come to us, a couple of distributors who are interested in the film. But yeah, no, we haven't reached negotiations, and maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know. Sorry if you're watching this, distributor. Uh, um, as for what's next, that is something I'm trying to figure out myself, actually. I'm so used to having everything planned out, sort of a year in advance and knowing what the next project will be after this one. But to be honest, my focus has been Happy as Larry for so long now, for, almost 2 years, I suppose, that I guess I haven't even had time to really, consider what's next. I'm obviously thinking about it now, and certain things are happening. I have one feature length script that I'd been writing over a 3 year period, and it went through so many drafts. And we are trying to get funding for that at the moment, although that is much bigger than Happy as Larry is. It's quite a big production, and it's set 30 years in the future, slightly dystopian, and it's a psychological thriller, very dark, very gritty. So it's very, very different as well to Happy as Larry. So that's one thing that I'm sort of working on, trying to get funding for that. And I'm also considering writing another feature-length script at the moment. I have some ideas that I want to put on paper. So that's something I'm considering. But yeah, I think this next one will be the fifth feature-length script that I've written. So I've got two that are just sort of like sitting there, and we're just figuring out what to do with them.
Do you want to do you usually want to direct them yourself when you write, or do you see some that you think somebody else might have a better eye on?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that I write to direct, or at least that was the case, that I used to write because I wanted to direct something. I don't know if that's the case anymore. I think my view has changed slightly, where I have kind of fallen in love with just writing, and directing takes a lot out of me, both emotionally and physically. And the chaos of working on set is not for the faint of heart. It's so maybe I don't want to direct everything I write. I'm not sure. Um, Certainly with the bigger things that I've written, maybe it would make sense for somebody else to direct them. I don't know. But also I don't want to sell myself short. So
Yeah, you have your
Right.
vision.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we'll see what happens. I'm not sure yet.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a short that won a whole lot of awards that was also based in a dystopian future, Soul Forest.
Yes. Yes. Well, there you go. That is the inspiration for the feature length.
Okay, that was going to be my
So
next
it's
question.
yeah, so it's like an
Related.
adaptation of Soul Forest.
Okay, awesome.
Very different, mind you, but that is the initial inspiration. Similar themes, but yeah, different, very different.
Okay.
But yeah, that Soul Forest is where it all started, and now I'm kind of trying to circle back to it, I suppose.
Do you so I was looking through a couple others like makeup.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
acted in that one as well. Do you write yourself small bits in most of the shorts or the features that you do, or is that just coincidence that two of your most popular ones also have you in it?
So makeup wasn't a small role. It was a leading role.
Yeah.
So it was me and Will Machetta who played the other lead. So that was a lot of work as an actor. And to be honest, I don't know if I'd ever do that again. I don't think I would write myself a lead in one of my films, because to direct and act throughout the whole film is just a bit intense. So I learned my lesson there, and with Happy as Larry, I was like, okay, I'll give myself a smaller role. I was only required to be on set for acting for like 3, maybe 4 days max, so it wasn't as bad. And yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not that desperate to act in anything, to be honest. But if there's a role that I find interesting, then I'm like, okay, why not? Makeup, it made sense because the character was loosely based on my dad. So it was kind of like a bit of a no-brainer that I should probably play that role. And then with Happy as Larry, it was more of a logistical thing that it was really hard to get actors onto this island, especially from the south of England. So it kind of made sense for one of us to play the role. And I just thought, yeah, I can do this. You know, the character is based on the place where I was born. So I know people like that. Again, it just made sense for me to sort of play that role. I even auditioned for it, even though it was my own film. I auditioned myself and I sent the audition to like the producer and a couple of other people of like, do you think I should have the role? Sort of thing. And the answer was yes. So there we go.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I got the part. Yay. A bit of like some like nepotism sort of it works like that. But yeah, but then my other three short films I wasn't in. I don't think. Was I in those? No, I wasn't. Yeah.
And where can people see any of your stuff? Do you have a hub to go if people want to watch your shorts, your other film?
I should really know this, shouldn't I? Soul Forest, I released on YouTube just because I wanted as many people to see it as possible. So you can see that on YouTube, Soul Forest short film. Blind Innocence, you can see on Tubi. Is that right? Tubi in the US
Yep.
and Plex TV in the UK, I think. Um, Makeup you can see on Amazon, Apple TV, Tubi as well, I think, maybe. Maybe Plex as well. So yeah, those
Flex is
kind of
getting big, yeah.
those kind of streamers, yeah. And then Happy as Larry, you can't see yet because it's not out. Sorry. So
Have to go to a film festival to see that one.
you have to go to a film
And
festival.
it's worth it.
Definitely worth it.
Yeah. Uh,
Nice.
we're going to include links on everything. Anything else you want us to include on here for you that you want the word out on?
Um, Not really, just hope you guys enjoy whatever you see.
Yeah,
Any of the films. And, ideally if you can make me famous in the meantime, that would be great. Um,
we'll see what we
no,
can do.
actually don't do that. I like my privacy. Don't make me famous. Just make me loads of money so that I can go and live in solitude somewhere.
That sounds pretty good. That's a good
That would
plan.
be good. Yeah.
Well, we don't want to take up more of your time. I know it's night there, and uh, we're about to get hit by a storm here. But it was lovely to meet you in Dallas, and thank you so much for joining us on here. Happy as Larry is. It was a surprise, a very happy surprise for us. We it was like the last film of the night, I think. Uh,
Yeah.
and
We were trying to fill a gap and I saw it. I read the little blurb on it. I was like, you know what? This one should be good. Let's not like we try not to waste time when we're at the film festival. We try to see as much as possible. I was like, you know what? This fits in. Let's watch it. And
Oh,
it was a very happy surprise.
yeah,
Like I
I'm glad
really
we filled
enjoyed
the
it.
gap. There we go.
we've been telling people about it, so we're eager to let them know that we're not making it up.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that's good to know. You were happy as Larry then. I'm
Yeah.
very happy about that.
Probably a little happier than Larry.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess that doesn't really make sense. Happy as Dale, maybe is what we should say in this
Yeah.
instance.
It had just that perfect balance of a little bit of dark side, but a lot of humor, a lot of dark humor, which is
And a
kind
lot
of
of
where
heart
we,
behind it all. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of where we lean a lot of the time when we're watching stuff.
I have to say, sorry, really random. I really like the props and things that you got going on behind you, and also your what would you call it, cover art or poster of your.
Yeah.
Our
Poster.
logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it okay? The logo, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks.
I've got what did you call it the other day? Tchotchkes,
Yeah.
knickknacks. Uh I'm I'm about 3 years from being on the show Hoarders, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, yeah, I am. I like those kind of shows. We have an antiques roadshow in the UK, which
Yep.
just goes around. Yeah. I mean, I'm a bit more minimalist than you guys. I have a camera here though with a light bulb on it. If that interests you.
Yeah, yeah.
So, got some random things dotted around. But yeah, very cool stuff. Very cool.
Yeah, if it's movie or if it's weird horror stuff, it's probably in my office here somewhere.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's where it should be. The office is where it should all be.
yeah, yeah. Uh, anything else?
I don't think so.
Man,
No,
thanks so
thank you.
much. Can we check back in with you here in 6 months and see how everything's going? Or
Sure. Yeah, why not?
I mean,
Check in with me every 6 months if you want to. We'll just
yeah,
have a little chat, live chat. Why not?
just get
Yeah,
an update.
absolutely.
Make sure you're still surviving out there.
Still alive, or if I've turned into Larry, who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Hopefully.
good luck on recovering. I know you're still in surgery recovery. Uh, wish you the
Oh,
best.
thank you. I'm getting there. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for chatting with me, obviously. And please survive the storm.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll submit this and I'll send you a link as well. We'll post this on all of our stuff.
Okay,
And
cool.
again, congratulations. Happy as Larry. Phenomenal.
Yeah. Thank you. It was awesome.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. All right. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Are we